Welcome back to the channel. Today we are following Илья from Klubniy Servis. Yes, the one and only Илья from Klubniy Servis as they disassemble Toyota Corolla Cross petrol model. He will tell us all about it. It's very interesting because we have seen this car in Australia already for a while. Yeah, it's not a new novelty for us, but for them it is. And as you know, Илья is quite a fan of Toyota, but he's always very fair, whether it's a Chinese vehicle or whether it's a Japanese designed vehicle. That's an important distinction right there. So stick around, give the video a like while I have your attention if you like this kind of videos and if you would like to tell me to make more of these disassembly videos. I haven't produced one in a while. Do you still enjoy them? This is your only and main way to tell me, Dmitry, we want more disassembly videos, because there surely is a lot more to where this is coming from. Enjoy the disassembly. Let's see what Илья thinks about Toyota Corolla Cross. This video is sponsored by the old friends of this channel, OTTOCAST. OTTOCAST are very well established on the market manufacturers of wireless Android Auto and wireless Apple Carplay AI boxes, which is basically a wireless adapter for your car. If your car is struggling with wireless connectivity to built-in wired Android Auto or wired Apple CarPlay, then OTTOCAST is one of the major biggest brands that are offering massive discounts to my community to check out. Check out the links in the description below. They have a lot of units. Lately I've reviewed like a couple of them, and this is also your chance to check the Auto Gear Reviews sister channel of mine, of Value Cars Australia, where I go in depth into unboxing, installation and other things about these units. Check them out. So our host Ilya here loves Toyota as a brand, and today he's very excited to disassemble and tell us more about what appears to be a newcomer to the Russian automotive market, Toyota Corolla Cross. Yes, in spite of all the sanctions. Joke's on you if you think they actually prevented anything, really. So Илья here remembers the good old classic Toyota Corollas that your parents might have bought in the past. But this vehicle is obviously quite different and is made more appealing for the present day and age, where crossover vehicles or mid-size SUVs are what the most of the buyers really want on the market. This Toyota Corolla Cross is a basic front-wheel drive with a 2-liter engine, roughly 170 horsepower. It's a petrol engine with CVT transmission, which I know won't make many people excited unless they are my fellow Subaru owners. This vehicle is assembled in China. Yes, China, to all of you Toyota badge snobs who think they are driving stuff that's made somewhere in Japan. The main market for these particular models is China, which is why that's where Toyota plant is pumping out these beauties. And for particularly intelligent crowd, a bonus question from me. Where do you think they are shipping those Toyota Crosses to Australia from? Sorry, let's move on. We open the bonnet of the vehicle here, and Ilya points out a sizable difference between kind of this distance between the frontal tip of the bonnet and of the end of the engine bay, and actually where the engine itself is starting. This makes the engine bay structure very similar to what apparently looks like Toyota RAV4, and we obviously see the 4-cylinder parallel placed petrol engine of one of the latest Toyota-made engine modifications that is allowing them to maximize the power and pump out a rather reasonable 170 horsepower out of this otherwise not particularly remarkable or impressive petrol-based power plant. Negative thing, according to Ilya, is in the CVT, as there are not many people who are fans of CVT, especially among the traditionally trained and inclined auto mechanics like Ilya and service personnel of his service center. This crossover isn't producing initially an impression of a particularly large or a long vehicle, but Ilya says that next to him not many things look particularly long or large, which I kinda tend to agree with. The length of this Toyota Corolla Cross is about 4.5 meters and the width is about 1.8, which makes it actually reasonably sized and not much smaller than RAV4 if you think about it, while of course RAV4 would sit quite a bit higher.
In case you wonder why Ilya actually loves Japanese designed vehicles in 2024, so he points out the internal structure of this vehicle that impresses him. He shows us that there is nothing fancy, of course, in terms of the interior trim. Not that much is left of it from what is shown to us on the screen right now, but he admires the safety features that are uncompromised in Japanese brands such as Toyota, even if they are assembled outside of Japan. Strong parallel reinforcement bars along the floor, relatively bulky thresholds, multiple reinforcement elements here, as you can see, and Ilya says that all of that makes an experienced mechanic feel safe and secure about this vehicle, immediately kinda relaxed compared to what he feels when he tears down most of the Chinese cheaper vehicles that we watched him take apart in the past few videos that I've translated for you. He even says that it's not because he just hates China-made cars, he doesn't, but because he simply kinda says that compared to, say, Toyota, with its vast history of making the vehicles, a lot of companies, of course not all of them, are only just learning how to make solid, reliable vehicles. A lot of the car's interior is already laid out with the sticky pads of sound and vibro insulation, as you can see, and Ilya says that this particular car came to Klubniy Servis for this exact aftermarket edition, as apparently many Japanese cars of a cheaper segment are known to be rather empty inside, solidly built, but empty tin boxes, metaphorically speaking. Once again, he shows a strong parallel reinforcement bar on the floor, very thoroughly welded and brushed seams, basically a lot of elements that are clearly made to last, and again, it leaves a very calming impression on him. Looking at one of the front doors of the vehicle, we see a classic basic tube-based reinforcement bar, time-proven, and another one over there, all of which makes the door feel very robust and solid, which is yet again praised by Ilya, and I can't help but agree with him, as I get a similar feeling of this solid kind of structure in my Subaru Outback after owning it after almost a handful of Chinese vehicles in the recent past. Rear doors are assembled similarly, and the reinforcement bar here is clearly placed diagonally, showing deliberate engineering calculations that are a result of many years of iterative design, safety design, that is here to make sure this car lasts a very long time and also protects the passengers from any unfortunate side collision events if you, God forbid, end up in one of those. Looking inside once again, we can see here that there are even roof reinforcement parallel bars. We can see plenty of them, which once again points out that while the brand might be saving on the interior materials and creatures' comforts that we don't really discuss today here, it's a tear-down video, but they didn't try and cut corners on how robust and solid the frame and the whole body of the Corolla Cross really is. While we see all these passive safety layers in the structure of the vehicle, there are also modern safety systems that we can see here too, such as the side airbags that are known among the mechanics as the curtains, and I'm sure you understand why. So where did Toyota then try and save money, you would ask, to make this Toyota Corolla Cross, well, relatively budget kind of friendly? Well, here you go, my friends, we are looking at a fully plastic and unexciting interior panel of one of the doors. It's solid, but hollow, plastic, nothing that even tries to be more pleasant or comfortable to touch. The door handles are also made of plastic, not even a tiny attempt to put something, I don't know, metal based in this whole structure. Ilya says that it's also a very Toyota-like thing to do, to give you something not super cheap, but solidly built that will possibly last you forever, but that will be purely utilitarian in nature, of transporting you from point A to point B, and that you will probably not super enjoy or be excited about along the way, but you'll get there. Ilya now shows us the classic Toyota way to insulate some of the elements of their vehicles, such as flooring, using these rough felt-based layers. Apparently they've been doing it for years and years and years. Inevitably these layers are kind of cursed for inevitably absorbing moisture, and starting to smell after 3 to 5 years, unless you use this car, I don't know, in a desert where there is never any rain, with almost zero exposure to elements, because the elements would come not just from the water leaking into the car, but from your wet boots, for example. This is where the famous old Toyota smell comes from, and the main reason why Ilya advocates for proper disassembly of even new Toyotas in 2024 to remove this felt stuff, if nothing else, if to do nothing else, and to replace it with proper modern insulation layers. Of course, they sell these services at Klubniy Servis, and of course they are financially incentivized in promoting those. I don't blame them, but I'm sure you would agree that he presents a pretty compelling case to us here as why a serious owner of a Toyota vehicle should possibly consider something like this if these services were available outside of obviously Russia and Klubniy Servis, and if those people were planning to keep their vehicle without any smell beyond the 5 to 7 year mark, I suppose. So they spend a few minutes of the original video now talking about the methods and the materials that they use to sound and vibro insulate any car, including this Toyota, why it's good and why it would last a long time, and how it would improve almost everything, from retaining the heat in the winter or air-conditioned cold air in summer, to removing the unwanted road noise, obviously, and to making your music sound so much better inside the vehicle, as, put simply, those extra materials, they will not let the sound escape or resonate undesirably while you're driving around listening to Taylor Swift. Looking at the rear axle of this Toyota Corolla Cross, Ilya points out the obvious. If something costs less than other vehicles of the same brand, there is usually a good reason for it, and we're looking at one of those. As you can see, it's a solid but cheaper made single axle rear bar, spring-based suspension that will feel quite bumpy on rough terrain, or if either of the rear wheels had to jump over some obstacle. Having an independent rear suspension would have, added a couple of $1,000 or maybe more than a couple to the price tag without a doubt. Continuing to look at the underbody of Toyota Corolla Cross, Ilya says that it looks like a real Toyota, as there are lots of screens, both plastic and steel ones, protecting the softer elements of the underbelly of this car, but the insulation seams are apparently not as nicely done as Ilya would suggest on classic Japanese assembled Toyotas, one of those that he owns. He kind of makes a reference to it, suggesting that it might have something to do with them cutting some corners on a China-based Toyota plant. This is weird, as Ilya shows us strangely placed and screwed on bars supporting the exhaust pipe. I agree, they do look out of place, like someone put those aftermarket, kind of as an aftermarket addition. Nobody knows why, but apparently this is how the car came into the service center originally. The frontal area of the car's underbelly is actually protected by a steel plate, screwed onto the body and clearly protecting the engine quite well. Ilya focuses here on this side section of this steel, let's call it a shield, that is fitted to the body by a large bolt, by a few bolts really, on that hinge-like construction. And he thinks here, well, speculates obviously, that it could be torn off rather easily if you hit a curbstone or some other solid object if you decided to take this vehicle off-road. Front suspension is fitted on a rather solid lower arm kind of construction that Ilya says almost look like a proper off-roader made kind of construction, rather than something for a light crossover vehicle that is made for the city. It's one of those positive surprises, something that he didn't expect to see here. And apparently some other elements, he points out, that are also not aluminium made, but they are made of cast iron, which is another surprise and something you simply would not think Toyota would use in a cheaper vehicle like Corolla Cross. We have disc brakes here, a classic, nothing to say much here, single piston braking system, and it's placed on McPherson strut frontal suspension. Rear wheels also have disc brakes, but they are unventilated, also very simple support systems, but it's tried and tested. It certainly is not something that you would expect to fail on a good old inexpensive Toyota. So summarizing it all, Ilya says that overall we're looking at a rather solid, inexpensive Toyota vehicle with the biggest disappointed of it always being the lack of creature's comforts, plastic interior panels, and in this case CVT. That could last you, according to his predictions, anything between 150 to 200,000 kilometers before they tend to die, and you would need to replace them quite expensively if your car is out of warranty by then. I personally do not know, by the way, if the Australian models that are for sale in Australia of Toyota Corolla Cross are actually coming with CVT or not, but keep this in mind as a general educational piece. Ilya says that by his estimations, this particular car would probably last the owner 5 years without any major issues, but as always, your mileage may and likely will vary.
And this is it, my friends. Do you agree with Ilya's conclusions? Do you disagree? What do you think? Let me know in the comments down below. You don't have to be a Toyota fan to kind of say that he's being probably rather fair. That's at least my subjective opinion, even though I'm not a Toyota driver. But I found this video quite insightful and quite interesting, even though the model that was reviewed is not probably the exact Australian model that we have here, but it's close enough, I'm sure you would agree. So once again, I hope that you have enjoyed this. Please give the video a like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, because there is a lot more where this came from. Thank you for watching. Goodbye for now.